saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Okay, friends, welcome to this Wednesday evening Sutta study. And as I sent out in the program last on the newsletter, tonight we are going to be reviewing Sutta number 2 in the Majjhima Nikaya, the Sabbasava Sutta, or the Sutta on all the defilements or asavas. And we've gone over the sutta before. And last 2 weeks, we were looking at the Mula Pariyaya Sutta, which is, the first sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya. And that's usually considered like explaining the essence of actually the mental transformation that from an ordinary way of how the ordinary person thinks and conceives the world to the way that somebody who's gained that first level of realization, like a stream enter, how they perceive and conceive the world, and then how an arahant also perceives and conceives or doesn't conceive the world. So that's basically, the levels of the transformation of our consciousness from the worldly plane to the supramundane plane. Now, how to actually do it, that's what this Sutta number 2 is about, and explaining how to gradually work on weakening and overcoming all the defilements of the mind. Now, the word Sabbasava means all the defilements. Now, Aseva is a word in Pali that has a meaning of like an effluent, effluents that get discharged from your septic system, or the effluents that are discharged from factories that are, discharging their polluting things into the ground. So these effluents, and it has the characteristic of oozing. And basically, these defilements or asavas are all of the accumulated levels of greed, hatred, and delusion that we find in the mind. And the Buddha said that there is no first point when these defilements have entered our mind. No first point is known or is not pointed out. But the fact that they're there and they're very, very deep rooted. Now, another interesting definition of the asava is like fermentation. So you know how alcohol ferments, or if you have some fruit that are left over too long in the kitchen, or some other types of foods that are left out, or they're mixed up, after some time they start fermenting, and gases start because of the combination of their molecules and so on. And in the case of alcohol, it becomes fermented and then alcoholic. And so in a similar way, these defilements in our mind have been fermenting and oozing and fermenting, throughout the course of samsara, and even within the course of our own life. And, it's like alcohol. People get drunk on their defilements. They get drunk on greed. They get drunk on lust. They get drunk on, anger and hatred. They get drunk on themselves, their ego. That means they get intoxicated. It's like an intoxication. And they get intoxicated by sensual pleasures. And, the temporary enjoyment and so on that comes from the sensual pleasures. So these all these defilements are basically, they're in the unconscious mind, and they come up in our daily life. They come up as the various emotional states and various thoughts, active thoughts, that cause us to do all of our daily actions, and also the hindrances. But after these hindrances and greed, hatred, and delusion have performed their karma in our active conscious life, they go back into the unconscious mind with that accumulated, the accumulated habits that one has probably repeated and strengthened, and then that adds to the fermentation process. It continues to ferment and then ooze. And they ooze out like you have a sore on your arm, let's say a boil, and it comes to a head, and then you squeeze it in, this this white pus comes out. So in the same way, whenever our senses are stimulated, that triggers off these effluents, these asavas, to ooze out. So that's just a kind of a mental kind of illustration, but it's really like that when you observe them. And they go permeating out. They don't go out just out of your mouth. they permeate into other people's minds. They permeate into the atmosphere, and they keep on sort of spreading. The anger or so, or wrong views, or so many other types of defilements. We can see how people get influenced by others who do that, and then continue to spread that. So there's all the asavas. So there's many, but they all fall into those three main categories of greed, hatred, and delusion. So the Buddha is giving this discourse to the monks, and he tells them he wants to explain them about all the cankers and how to overcome all of these asavas. So it's good to know the kind of the meaning, or kind of even on an intellectual level, this how these asavas really are there in the unconscious mind. And when they come up, usually we're not aware of them, and they grip our mind and nervous system so quickly that then we react to them, or we repeat some negative kind of behaviors, especially in terms of like breaking the precepts, for example. So I'm just going to read a little bit of this first. I know hopefully that most of you have read this sutta at least once, or maybe a few times, but it's always good to review it. And then the first thing that the Buddha says is, I say that the destruction, the overcoming and destruction of these asavas, these defilements, is for one who knows and sees. not for one who does not know and see. And then he says, who knows and sees what? And then he says, one who knows and sees what is wise attention and what is unwise attention. Now, these two words are really the underlying, the most important of the mental qualities of developing our mindfulness and concentration, and especially of learning how to consider and observe our intentions and the impulses that are driving us to want to speak or do something or even think something with our mind. So one who does not know what wise attention is, and one who does not know what unwise attention is. And normally he starts with understanding the unwise attention, because most people, have unwise attention. What he called the ordinary untaught person, one who has no acquaintance or understanding of the Dhamma. They're considered an untaught ordinary person in terms of the Dhamma understanding. They might be knowledgeable in other things and important people, but they could be untaught in the knowledge of the audience. And then the Buddha actually goes over this list of 7 ways of overcoming the cankers. He says there are defilements that should be abandoned by seeing, those that should be abandoned by restraining, those that should be abandoned by using, those that should be abandoned by enduring, those that should be abandoned by avoiding. And there are those that should be abandoned by removing. And then there are those that should be abandoned by developing. And so the Buddha goes on to explain how those are done. But the most important part, the seeing, the first one of those to be abandoned by seeing, that is by developing wise attention and wisely attending and knowing what is unwise attention. So a person who does not understand the Dhamma, they don't understand what is fit for attention, and they don't understand things that are unfit for attention. So they pay attention to those things that are unfit for attention, and they don't attend to those things that are fit for attention. So that means basically understanding what is skillful, what is unskillful. That means, paying attention to your mental states that we've already understood from going over other suttas in our general understanding. Things that give rise to greed, hatred, and delusion. Those are generally considered things unfit for attention. And things that help to give rise to all the wholesome qualities, loving kindness and mindfulness, concentration and wisdom, generosity, then those are the things that are fit for attention. And he also talks about the unarisen taints or the unarisen defilements that arise, increase, and the arising of when we have unwise attention, the unhealthy defilements arise and they increase. And when we have wise attention, the wholesome qualities arise and they increase. So here we have basically the right effort. That's how a lot of these things that we read in the Sutta, they are connected with other things that we've also been practicing. You know, the right effort to abandon unwholesome thoughts that have arisen and the effort to cultivate the wholesome thoughts that have arisen. And basically, unwise attention means attending to, like, seeing the pleasant aspects of the sensual stimulations. So when you hear, see, taste, smell, touch, or feel something, or even think about something, you pay attention to the marks of beauty or the marks of pleasure, and you remember all the pleasant sensations and memories that those objects gave you, and so you continue to think about them. And we continue to think about them because we're continuing to apply the unwise attention and also not seeing their impermanence. So we're taking all these objects of the senses in the world for being some kind of, concrete and real objects, and also the sense of our self, our ego consciousness, our I consciousness. So we think in terms of ourself related to that. Oh, last week I had this great experience, or last week I had this painful experience, and you think about it in different ways. And so the Buddha remarks, this is how a person attends unwisely. He thinks, was I in the past? Was I not in the past? What was I in the past? How was I in the past? Having been what did I become in the past? Shall I be in the future? Shall I not be in the future? And so all of his thoughts are revolving around the sense of I. And that's how that defilement increases, because he's taking that sense of I to be something real and identifying with it. And he remembers all these objects that brought this I pleasure, or all of its, its future, all of its plans and desires for the future, that continues to strengthen and re-strengthen the sense of I. So the wise attention and the unwise attention, those Pali words for wise attention is the yoniso manasikara, and the Pali word for the unwise attention is the ayoniso manasikara. And yoniso means wise, ayoniso is unwise. And the manasikara is a word that means the mind's attention to an object. So the untaught ordinary person, he relates to everything primarily with that unwise attention. That means a personal identification with whatever it is, whether it's his emotions, he's feeling sad, he's feeling happy, he's feeling lonely, having fear. He's all, at every moment, he is relating to it as this emotion, I am in this emotion is in me. And identifying with, and giving making sort of, excuses or reasons why it should, be this way and so on, or why they should be angry at another person, or this causes those effluents that are in the unconscious. By thinking this way, it triggers off all the different connections in the unconscious mind, and they start oozing out. It will remember, like, this person did this to me last week, that person did to me this 2 weeks ago, and on and on and on. Or it'll, be picking faults with others and telling the faults or malicious gossip about others. He did this week, 2 weeks ago, they did this and that. And so they just come oozing out of the mind. It's like, for some people, it's like once you open up the unconscious mind and start paying attention, they start streaming out, oozing out until we put a cork in it, and so that is where we have to then attend wisely. And then the Buddha said, what are the things that are fit for attention? And basically, as I already mentioned, the way you attend wisely is saying, okay, this emotion has come up, but this emotion is conditioned. And it's just like a bubble of emotion, or this thing is impermanent. This thought is impermanent. You reflect on whatever understanding of the Dhamma that you have acquired, and you try to see the impulses, the thoughts that are trying to increase this particular type of thought, unwholesome thought. So you give the opposite to that. So instead of seeing the mark of beauty in things, you try to see like you with X-ray eyes, you try to see the underlying reality. That the old saying is, beauty is only skin deep. So if you actually peel the skin, if you see this beautiful body that you have some desire for, if you get beyond looking at the hair on the head, the skin, the teeth, the nails, and hair, and let's say peel the skin off, it wouldn't be so appealing. So that is just one way of attending wisely, so that it cuts off the unwise attention. So we have to apply unwise attention, which is the right effort, to overcome the unwise attention. And basically, he says the wise attention is basically knowing this is suffering, he attends wisely. This is the origin of suffering, he attends wisely. This is the cessation of suffering, he attends wisely. This is the way leading to the cessation of suffering, he attends wisely. And that is not some kind of, theory. That's a lot of people hear the Four Noble Truths. Oh, this is a Buddhist theory. No, it's about, when it arises in you, when your mind is struggling and anguishing over something. If you're honest with yourself, is that really happiness? You'll see, no, this is suffering. And then what is the cause of that suffering? Well, it's because I've cultivated these habits over a long period of time. And I'm, personally identifying with the various aspects of that. Or the attachment and the aversion. And the moment you give up that identifying those objects or that attachment, that pain will vanish. It's like with the body irritation. If you're meditating and then you have some pain in the body, or an insect lands on you, you can see that immediate kind of aversion arise. And you can learn how to just observe it and just say, this is sensation. And not to create a story out of it, like apply the 4-element meditation. But the moment you say that's a insect or a pain in my knee, you've already personalized it. You've given a location in your knee, and then the knee belongs to this larger body, and this larger body belongs to me. All of that process occurs in a nanosecond in the mind because of that habit of taking everything in a personal way. So the wise attention, or basically most of the methods of developing awareness and reflection that we've can find in the teachings. So seeing the body as just 32 body parts, for example, or the 4 elements, and seeing them as impermanent, and especially as not really me or mine or myself. So basically seeing anicca, dukkha, and anatta. So that's the attending wisely to whatever arises at any time of the day, not just while you're meditating. So that the attending wisely and unwisely, really that's the practice of mindfulness and the investigation of Dhamma, and the practice of developing mindfulness and concentration. And we can be mindful of the object that we're mindful of, such as the breathing. We can understand that as just the air element or the air vibration. And we can see how the mind identifies, that breathing is happening to me, that's air going in out of the lungs. Or my breathing is this way, my breathing is that way. So that is attending unwisely. The wise attention will, if you're following this the sort of the 4-element reflection, this is just that movement vibration, and seeing how the perceptions that arise, and seeing how the unwise attention tries to arise. And the moment that unwise attention arises, immediately you see the suffering, you see the agitation, because you tense up. I don't like this pain or aversion. And you can see it very clearly. It's not some fantasy or pie in the sky idea. It's direct. That's why the Buddha called it directly visible. Because it doesn't take time to see these effluents and defilements arising in the mind through any of the 6 senses. And whether you're sitting or standing or walking or laying down or doing any movements, these are always potentially there for arising. And if we have that unwise attention, then we will always, that's the way we continue to be agitated and get stressed out about anything that is said to us during the day. If you're at home and have arguments with your spouse or your children, and you might be holding on to your views, they're holding on to their views, and or any other type of things. People are trying to tell lies about you at work in order to get a promotion over you or something like that. So these situations in daily life are constantly pushing our buttons, and that's really where we have to try to have that right that wise attention, so we don't get pulled into the unwise attention, and then into the thoughts, emotions, and the actions that then bring about more problems. And so this developing of mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom, this continual cultivation of the wise attention and the unwise attention, it deepens through the longer you can be mindful and awake. If you're half sleepy all the time, or you're kind of dull, you're going to miss all these urges and stimulations and urges that are coming up in the mind, and sort of catch them late when you've already started to identify with them and get carried away with them. So that's why the mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom, these are the three mental qualities that help us to deepen that wise attention, especially the wise attention. That's what we're trying to cultivate. But first of all, we also have to understand what unwise attention is, so that we can recognize it and then apply the wise attention. And it's only through the more continuous we can apply the wise attention, that's actually how you stay focused in the present moment and are able to develop the deeper levels of mindfulness and concentration. And that wise attention gets deeper with each of those phases of being able to not react and get carried away, to stay focused on observing the mind, being grounded in the body, observing the mind. Then that is how that wise attention develops. Now, again, we've already covered in the first step of the Eightfold Path is the right understanding, and that's of three levels. So, you might hear a sort of what you regard as an intellectual talk about these things, but you may not have ever heard of it before. You say, oh, well, that's interesting. Let me check that out. And so then as you start to practice more awareness and seeing how quickly the unwise attention comes up, and if you're able to apply the wise attention, you see how that unwise attention immediately vanishes. And so, again, that is, kind of seeing. Now, when this seeing is developed to, a certain level by the development of mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom, and practicing and all the postures, at a certain point, you may have that experience where you directly, see the conditioned mind, the shell of the conditioned mind opens up, even just momentarily, and you get a glimpse of that unconditioned awareness. And it's very profound. And you never forget it. But it normally will close up again to a certain extent, and you won't have that full, clear experience of it, but at least now you know it's there and you won't forget it. And that's what motivates you to continuing to practice and to continue to develop, because you see the freeing effects of that. So therefore, this first first of these 7 ways of overcome the defilements, it kind of starts with the seeing, or certain defilements are overcome by the seeing. And those defilements are basically, the first three fetters of, understanding the illusion of the ego. So overcoming the idea that my ego is real and it's something concrete and substantial, and it'll exist forever, or it'll go poof and disappear at the time of death, or whatever theories you might have about it. But even in our momentary experience, it still comes up, but we catch ourselves, and we can understand, okay, underneath it is an illusion, and you try not to get too carried away by it. So anyway, understanding that fetter of the self-view, and then the attachment to rites and rituals, and all doubts about whether the Dhamma is useful or not, or leads to anything, beneficial, because you've directly seen that liberating quality of that type of awareness. So anyway, that is the defilements that are overcome by seeing. And he lists that first because generally that refers to, entering the stream of Dhamma. And so that your mindfulness will be good enough that you'll be able to practice the rest of these ways of overcoming the defilements, in daily life. But it doesn't mean that you can't practice those other ways, but until you have a certain degree of wise attention, and developing that wise attention and overcoming the unwise attention, then it will be very difficult to practice those other methods in the daily life, but certainly not impossible either. They're very practical methods, and I'm not going to go in them now. And I'm going to try to save that for next week, the following sort of ways of overcoming and destroying or totally eliminating those defilements. Now, the Buddha pointed out, the two stages. First, you have to overcome them. And the overcoming means you apply the mindfulness and wisdom that that means they've already come up. They've already arisen, but then you apply these, the right understanding to overcome them, to weaken them and make them subside from the mind. And when they cease temporarily, then that's their destruction, at least in a momentary phase. So when the unarisen fetter arises, if you apply the wise attention to it, then that fetter can cease. And if you keep on applying that wise attention, and those certain defilements like anger, or ego, or craving, and there's so many others, if you apply that wise attention over and over again, then those defilements begin to sort of lose their strength, and they'll become weaker and weaker and weaker, until then finally you'll be able to, when you reach those deeper levels of insight, they can be totally eliminated. So anyway, this is kind of just an introduction to this sutta and the ways in which the Buddha talked about overcoming and eliminating the asavas. So I want to open it up and see if anybody has any questions about any of these, anything that we've talked about. I hope you would have read the sutta before and maybe had some questions, but if you hadn't read it or remembered it, if something comes to your mind. So doesn't look like we have anything in the chat box.
Bhante, I have a question.
Yes.
What is this? How do you spell this word? The Pali word that you used for the defilement. Asvas, did you say?
Aseva. It's a long A.
Yeah.
S-A-V-A. Aseva. The long A.
A-S-A-D-A?
A-S-A-V is in Victor.
Asava.
Aseva. Yes.
Okay. This is the first time I've heard that word.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with the Pali suttas, I mean, even if you read the English translation, you'll see the Pali words oftentimes in parentheses.
Yeah.
So you gradually learn to at least understand the basic meaning of some of these words, like, asava or tanha, samsara.
Right. No, some of the Pali words are they make sense and they are actually pretty close to some of the Hindi words.
Yes.
But this word I've heard for the first time. First I thought when you said it, I thought you meant asanas. And it didn't make sense to me. I said, it didn't apply to what you were saying, but it's a totally different word.
Yes, totally different.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Pali words that have similar meanings, like, canker. Of course, that's actually an English word, way it's translated sometimes. Cankers or taints. So you'll see when you read all the taints, some translators will title the sutta "All the Taints," and so that's just another word for asava or canker, or even defilements. Any other? There's a couple of chats look like came into the chat room. Let's take a look at that. I don't know who gave this first chat, but you have the wrong word. You're having apsara, not asava. So you're in the wrong word when it's describing it's beyond any human body. That's a totally different word you're into. So it's asava. The word we're discussing is asava. This next question, is there a connection or difference between asava and the hindrances? Yes, there is a connection and between asavas and hindrances. If there's no asavas, then there probably wouldn't be many hindrances. So asavas, try to think them as like the roots of a plant underneath the soil. So the roots go out and they're what feed the branches. If it wasn't for the roots and the nutriments that are absorbed through the soil, and then those, go through the, plants have like a bloodstream like we have, different, but anyway. So the branches, the leaves, and the fruits, well, they're not necessarily hindrances, but they're the outgrowth of the roots. So the same way a hindrance is the momentary, let's say you're talking with somebody and all of a sudden you get into a heated discussion and then maybe you feel some tension or some little anger arising. So that's a hindrance that momentarily arises, but it's there, it arises because the asava is the underlying tendency in the unconscious that is still not been overcome. So all the reactions in our conscious mind are basically being fed by the underlying accumulation of the asavas, which are basically the accumulated past karma, the memories, and the greed, hatred, and delusion that we keep on cultivating over and over again. So there is that connection. We talk normally about the 5 hindrances, and there's, could be 10 defilements, or, depending on, there's different categories and lists and numbers of these things that are mentioned in different places. So, but anyway, the basic ones are the sensual desire, and the asavas are normally called the kama asava, bhava asava, and avidya asava. Basically, the defilement of sensual pleasure, the defilement of clinging to becoming, and the defilement of ignorance. So this, okay, somebody who gave this question, the question at the top, the one about apsara, the concept of beauty, that's what the person was, it looks like what they were asking a question about. It's about defilement and sensual desire. Well, that's a complicated question, and it would take a lot more time and discussion that we have available here too, because you're talking about Hindu concepts and so on, which may be related somewhat to this, but so anyway, okay, friends, I think we'll bring our discussion to an end, and as I mentioned last week, try to keep this the attachment that I sent out last week to this sutta, and to reread it, and especially the other methods that we're going to talk about. But also during this next week, try to understand and understand what is ayoniso manasikara, unwise attention, and to see that when you start seeing the beauty in the food, or the beauty in something else, a nice smell, and getting attached to it, just identify it. Okay, this is coming from seeing the marks of beauty. What about if you put that food in your mouth for only 1 or 2 seconds and then spit the food back out? Are you going to have that same perception of beauty? Probably not. And then the desire to want it, that desire connected with wanting to consume it, would also vanish. So that's just one example of how we can apply that unwise attention, and see when it takes our mind, and then applying the cultivating the wise attention. Okay, so and that pertains to all of the senses. So during the week, whether it's in your house, whether it's in the market, or traveling, or your job site, or in your social interactions, or even sitting within your own mind, we can see these things coming up. And first, I try to identify and see and really understand, not just saying, oh, that's unwise attention, but really understand why it is considered unwise attention, and what kind of a grip they have, and how those influence, come up so quickly. Okay, so we'll go ahead and take a a short few minutes break and then come back and do some yoga stretches and then have our meditation period. Okay? See you back in a few minutes.
Bhante, you may want to set the microphone setting.
Were you saying something, Prashant?
Yes, Bhante.
What?
You want to set the microphone setting to Scarlet.
Thanks for reminding me. How's that now? Is that better? Prashant?
Yeah, you may want to wear the mic, then I can tell.
I'm going to wear it, yeah.
Yeah, at the moment I can hear you.
Okay. Stand straight. You can hear me. Relax your shoulders and arms at the sides. Feel your feet pressing the floor. Just gently close your eyes and mentally feel the standing body. Then begin some deep, slow breathing. Take 3 seconds to breathe in, expand your abdomen, ribcage, and chest. Moving there into 3 seconds, returning on the out breath. Feel the last bit of air go out to the lungs. Let's try to cultivate this basic mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and the future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and the future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Follow me through these movements, coordinating with breathing. So on the next in-breath, raise the arms over the head, interlock the fingers, straighten the arms, stretch the head back, look at the back of the hands over the head. On the out breath, turn the palms down and touch the top of the head. On the out breath. The next in-breath, straighten the arms, head back. Out breath, touch the head. The third time, hold that upward stretch longer. Feel the sensation. Release the fingers, out breath, and back to the side. Relax. Keep the mind and the body. Feel the feet pressing the floor. Feel the subtle sensation of the feet. Any other sensations in the body? It's cultivating wise attention of the present moment, standing. next in breath, push up on the toes, raise the arms over the head and stretch upwards, facing the hands toward each other. Out breath, come back down, arms to the side, knees to the floor. Breathe in, breath up. Some more in. The attention in the body, and you increase body vibration. Remember the present moment, standing. Next, we'll do the knee bending. And the next in breath, again, push up on the toes, raise the arms up front, balance. And the out breath, bend the knees, lower down. Squatting position if we can. In breath, push up. Move the muscles in the legs, push the body up. In out breath. And go all the thoughts moving to the back of the mind, feeling standing body. Next we'll do side bending using one arm at a time. On the in breath, raise the left arm up. Keep the fingers and arms straight, close to the head. Out breath, bend over the right side. Keep the bicep touching the head if you can. In breath, lift up. And then out breath to the right. the out breath, lower the arm. Next in breath, raise the other arm. 3 times to the left side. Up, breathe. Feel the stretch in the side. One more time up. With the out breath, lower the arm. Feeling standing body, pressing the floor, the arms and hands at the side. Floating, touching the skin on different places. The head balanced on the top. Now standing straight and the head turning from right to left. And the in-breath, turn the head to the right. And look over your right shoulder. The out-breath all the way back to the left. Concentrate into the neck vertebra. In-breath to the right. Breath to left. In-breath right. The in-breath, stop in the center. Feeling the body, remember standing. And now we're going to come back to the seats, get ready for sitting awareness.
Can you make sure that your microphone, wireless microphone, is turned on in your pocket?
What? Yeah, I'm sorry if you couldn't hear during the yoga session. I had forgotten to turn the mic on, so sorry if you couldn't hear me, but hopefully you could follow the.
Able to hear you. It was a little lighter, but we were able to hear you.
Okay, so let's try to take up a comfortable sitting posture. Try to keep the back and the head in a straight line. Just gently close the eyes. Just mentally feel the sitting body. Move your attention down to feel the buttocks and feet. Press the floor underneath. Just feel those sensations of the buttocks and feet pressing the floor. Just cultivate the wise attention. That's simply the earth vibration. It's part of the wise, attending wisely, not to identify with the physical body as being mind and so on. It's just the earth vibration. The different sensations coming and going. Let the mind move up to feel the hands and fingers, the subtle pulse of blood in the fingers. And wise attention understands it as just a combination of the earth vibration, the water vibration. The cells, atoms interacting, producing friction, sensation. That's attending wisely. And feel the weight of the arms hanging from the shoulders. Relax the shoulders. Try to feel the sensations of the clothing touching the shoulders, upper arms or chest. Again, it's just the earth vibration. Might feel some movement of air in the lungs, expanding and contracting. It's the air vibration or movement vibration. Now moving up into the head, Just try to center the awareness just behind the eyes. Sort of feel the eyes resting in the sockets, and the eyelids stretched over the eyeball. Sort of turn on the camera of awareness. Sort of just watch the eyes sitting there in the sockets, noticing the subtle sensation. You might notice some light or color or an image. Even while doing this awareness, if any thoughts come in the mind, just notice it as thinking. Just gently let go of the thoughts, bring the attention back to the flow of awareness. Now from behind the eyes, just try to feel the other sensations on your face. Feel a prickling sensation. The feeling of the skin stretched over the skull. Again, it's just sensory vibration. That are constantly changing. That's attending wisely. And let the lens of the mental camera awareness kind of open up. You feel the outline of the whole body. From the head, you can also feel the outline of the shoulders, arms, hands, buttocks, feet underneath, clothing touching the skin. Just like with a wide-angle lens. And then begin some deep, slow breathing to feel the expanding and contracting sensations in the middle of that body outline. Just take several more deep, slow breaths like we did in the yoga, cultivating this basic mindfulness. And breathing in, letting go of the past and future. And breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. And breathing out, sitting here and now. And breathing in, feeling the whole body. And breathing out, feeling the whole body. You can continue the deep breathing if it helps you to stay focused. Otherwise, when you're ready, you can let the breathing return to its shorter, uncontrolled rhythm, but continue to feel it. Just keep the attention focused in the center of the body. Feel the subtle expanding and contracting sensation. It's like looking through a microscope, turning up the power of a microscope. Zoom in to the subtler movements of the breathing. Try to feel the different sensations of the clothing rubbing against the skin, stomach, rib cage, your chest. Or if you want, you can feel the air as it enters the nostrils and then the expanding of the chest. Whatever helps you to stay focused, connected to the present moment of the breathing process. This understanding that the air element is simply going in and out of this body, physical sensations, or clothing touching the skin, other sensations, other earth vibration, movement of the breathing, the air vibration. And not to think of it in terms of me or my body. Just cultivate detached, onlooking awareness. Try to feel the 4 phases of each breath. The expanding in breath, the brief pause, the contracting out breath, and the brief pause. During those brief pauses, you can feel the other sensations in the body, the outline of the body. Just tuning in to the present moment, just sitting and breathing. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Attending wisely at all these different sensations you're feeling are just simply sensations of interaction of cells, molecules, atoms, basically just condensed energy vibration. If you're thinking about all the problems of your body, that's unwise attention. And all these sensations in the body are just continually coming and going, arising and vanishing at a very high rate, speed. process of impermanence. But at the same time, still be alert for thoughts or urges or intentions to want to move, or any unpleasant sensations and the thoughts arising from them. Is it unwise attention or wise attention? Try to understand the difference between unwise attention, giving rise to anxieties, confusion, and a wise attention leading to more peace of mind, relaxation. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. This breathing body is the natural connection to the underlying present moment awareness. If any thoughts of the past or future arise with any attachment, worry, fear, recognize that as unwise attention. You identify them as being you, and cultivate the wise attention. This is just the 5 aggregate body-mind process. There's too many thoughts, so the mind is dull. Come back and take a few deep, slow breaths. Get grounded, connected in the breathing body. Re-entering the flow of moment-to-moment awareness. Being able to sort of identify or recognize the 5 aggregates. This is material vibration. This is pleasant or painful, neutral feeling. This is the perception, the names, labels, images. This is the volitional formations, thoughts, urges, action, reaction. This is consciousness, thoughts of I, me, and mine. And all these 5 aggregates, body, mind, phenomenon, are just continually coming and going, arising and vanishing, without any owner or controller. Being powered by the force of the anusayas, the accumulated asana. That's the wise attention. Start to notice or feel subtler and finer detailed sensation. The 5 aggregate breathing body process, the process of impermanence and no self. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Material vibrations come and go. Pleasant, painful feelings come and go. Perceptions come and go. Thoughts, urges, emotions come and go. Thoughts of I, me, and mine come and go. The past and future, stirring up the Aseva. The Asevas or defilements only gain a footing in the mind. We're identifying things from the past or future. And the mind is grounded to the present moment and the natural wise attention arising. So what kind of thoughts or feelings arise based on that sound contact? Anicca vata sankara upadavaya dhammino upajitva nirunjanti tesam upasamasuko dukkha patta ca niddukkha bhayapatta ca nibbaya sokapatta ca nisoka hontu sabbe pipaninu. Impermanent or all conditioned things, the five aggregates of body and mind. They arise only to pass away. Having arisen, then they cease. The subsiding of them is bliss. And may the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings live with mindfulness and wisdom. Now I invite you to join in chanting the word sadhu 3 times slowly. Feel that vibration in the body and mind. Do the chanting on a long out breath. Take a deep in breath. Sadhu. 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 Now place the hands at the edge of the knees. Take one more deep breath. And stretch the head back, arch your lower spine. And lift the head up on an in-breath. On the out-breath, press the chin to the top of the chest to stretch the neck vertebrae. Lift the chin up level on an in-breath. And relax on the out-breath. Put a smile on your face. Okay, friends, so this brings our evening session to an end. But remember, Yoniso Manasikara should always be with us, because our yoniso manasikara is always trying to find a foothold in the mind. So yoniso manasikara is the only real antidote. And again, a yoniso manasikara can arise anytime, in any place, in any posture. So that's why we need to practice the M&Ms. Remember to try to do the M&Ms every hour to help remind you if you got caught up in any ayoniso manasikara, and then to reflect on the wise attention, how one could have wisely attended to that reaction that you might have made, or thoughts, and to see how much stress or anxiety or downright pain arises through our unwise attention. Okay, so wish you all the best this next week. Keep up your meditation practice, and see you again next week. Again, we'll continue with the same sutta. So try to, if you weren't able to read it in the last couple of days, try to read it again and read that second section also on the methods 2 through 6 out of the 7 methods for dealing with the defilements in very sort of practical ways. All right? So I wish you all the best.